Welcome to the Big Movement Podcast. If you're ready to create results and make huge strides in your business, finances, personal development, and health, then you're in the right place. Pushing past excuses and powering through procrastination can be a challenge alone. Here, you'll get the support, tools, and knowledge you need to get to the level you desire in your business and life. Let's get started with your host, Byron Ingram.
And welcome to another episode of the Big Movement Podcast. And today we have Kathy Haan, who is a leading success coach for female entrepreneurs wanting to change the world and ultimately create an income that allows them to experience the world on their terms and on their time. So let's give a warm welcome to Kathy. So Kathy, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. So Kathy, tell us a little bit about your background, because you have, as we were talking before, such passion for helping people, but how did you get there?
Okay, so I always thought that I had kind of like this higher calling. Everybody thought that I was more like intuitive and super helpful. And about 6.5 years ago, I found myself at 275 pounds, and I was miserable, suicidal, depressed, all of that. Just really not in a good place, surrounding myself with people who were like very low vibe, broke all the time. And then I joined an MLM. It was a health and fitness MLM, lost 123 pounds, was wildly successful in that, built a team, but then got so burnt out, just spinning my wheels for a $30 commission, working so hard with these people wanting to change their lives, and then them not putting the same energy back into it. So I transitioned over to blogging, and everybody was asking me, how do you start this blog? You're having great success with this. You're working with all these brands. You're making a lot of money. Teach me what you do. And so I found myself helping all these people for free, spending hours and hours and hours every day helping these people. And so then I thought, well, you know what? Why not use my MBA? And so I started creating different coaching packages. So that's where I'm at now. I host one-day intensives, helping people create their online courses, hold retreats, and their coaching packages.
Oh, excellent. And that's so important that you went through that journey to discover what it is that you're passionate about, because so many people, they go down a path and they keep going down it, even though they're burnt out because they don't know another way. What was it that ultimately made you decide, maybe the MLM world is not for me and I should use my MBA?
Okay, so, that's a really good question. I think what the biggest thing for me was I was sitting on a webinar with another coach in the industry, and she was talking about how she was wildly successful in her MLM, and then literally overnight, she lost all of her income because that company decided to change their compensation structure. And that was a huge wake-up call for me. Like, I'm sure I probably understood that might happen, but I didn't realize what the gravity of something like that would be. And so I kind of internalized that and thought, here I am working really, really hard with all of these low vibe people to generate a $30 commission. I have an MBA. I started an online magazine in middle school and had sponsors like Steve Madden, and I've got, kind of a PR background because I've been in pageants and did modeling. Like, why not market myself and my services and my program to who I want? I want to build my tribe and not low vibe people.
Right, exactly. You had that epiphany that ultimately, for you to create the lifestyle that you want, it was about building what you wanted. It wasn't about building someone else's dream.
Exactly. And something that I love to say is I don't want to be everybody's cup of tea. I want to be somebody's shot of whiskey. And so I'm looking for those girls who are I'm their shot of whiskey. Like, well, we're, running buddies in business, just knocking things out of the park. Like, that's what I love. Very, very high achieving. I've always been really high achieving. So I like to surround myself with those type of people.
And, that's an important thing to talk about. It's the peer group you create for yourself, because so many people, the reason why they struggle is, like you're mentioning, they're surrounding themselves with low vibe people. So it's like being in a bucket full of crabs. If you think, have you ever watched a bucket of crabs before?
Yeah, I used to go crabbing when I lived in Oregon.
Well, then you totally understand how they just pull each other down instead of helping each other up.
Right, exactly. And, I was totally reminded of that today when I had an old coworker reach out to me and ask me, is this what you're really charging for this program? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, that's not a lot at all. I just couldn't believe the type of money mindset some people have.
Right, exactly. Your mindset, it really gets into everything, because without the right mindset, you will always find yourself at the same place because you're going to be around the same people, and you're wondering, how come you're not changing? Well, you're believing the wrong things. It's kind of like, you think of in the past, if people believed the world was flat and they were going to fall off if they went past a certain distance, what would they do? They would never leave where they were because they didn't want to go into the unknown.
Right, exactly. And, another thing I like to think about is the quote, if you throw me to the wolves, I'll come out leading the pack. Like, I want to surround myself with people who are, high vibe, they are go-getters, and they're ready to take on the world, not people who are just content to sit on the sidelines.
Right. I like to look at it as taking a step further. You throw me to the wolves, I'm coming out wearing a fur coat.
Right? I love that.
It's all about your mindset. How do you approach things? Because so many people, they don't think about it, of going into it like, how do I win with this? How do I execute? How do I make these things happen? Where they just kind of go, oh, well, here I am. That didn't work. Next. But
exactly. And people always are like, afraid to take the leap towards things. For me, when people are like, well, what about this? I'm like, okay, well, why not? Let's figure out a way to make it work. Like, who wouldn't? Why wouldn't you want to?
Right.
Like, take that leap of faith.
Right. Exactly. It's one of those things that's so critical to take that leap of faith, to push yourself out there. So obviously when you're working with entrepreneurs and helping them figure out what they need to be doing, what's one of those key things that every entrepreneur needs to be doing to position themselves for success?
The first thing, it's something we've been talking about this entire call is mindset. Before you do anything else, you have to have that mindset there. Because if you are putting out in the universe that, oh, nobody's going to buy this, nobody will. And if you're going to talk about how, you're broke all the time, well, you're going to be broke all the time.
Right. Exactly. It's amazing when you look at the world and how many people, they consume the wrong types of material. You think of how many people that the excitement in their day, it's watching Dancing with the Stars. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but, they watch, 30 plus hours of TV every single week and then complain, I don't have the time to read a book. I'm like, really?
Right. And see, you bring up an excellent point. It was about 6 years ago that I made the decision to get rid of cable, and it's probably been one of the best decisions I've ever made. I used to have like crippling anxiety so bad that I was on FMLA and missed like 6 months of work at a time. I was in an abusive marriage and I was depressed and suicidal, and I was just like, I could not function as a normal human being 6.5 years ago. And I decided to finally do something about it. Like, I was heavily medicated and I made lifestyle choices. And now for the last 6 years, I've been totally med free, just because I made some lifestyle changes and started surrounding myself with people who were positive and uplifting rather than drama.
Right. Oh, yeah. It makes a huge difference. And it's interesting that, you gave up cable. And I think out of all the people I talk to and all my friends that are really successful, that is a common trend amongst pretty much all of them. They don't have cable.
Yeah. I don't have time to watch cable because I have, all of these fun things I want to do and create.
Right.
Like, who has time to sit there and watch somebody else's monologue,
Right, exactly. Like, I'll watch something like on Netflix or things like that every now and then, but otherwise,
Yeah.
forget crying out loud. No, I don't have time for it.
Right, exactly. Like don't get me wrong, I love watching movies, it's our weekend thing on Netflix, but other than
Right.
that, like I have no idea what shows are on except for The Walking Dead. I watch that.
You have to have that one guilty
Because it's
pleasure.
The Walking Dead. Right,
Right.
exactly. And zombies and everything. That's fun for me. But other than that, like I don't have time for it.
Right, exactly. I'm one of those people that I will make the time to watch a very few things, usually like your typical guy stuff, your action type things. Like, yeah, look at that stuff blowing up, exciting.
Right.
But outside of that one or two shows, forget it. It doesn't happen. I don't have time. Because I'd
Right,
rather,
exactly.
like you, be working on something, writing books, working on this podcast. The list goes on and on, like, of other things which I find as a more productive usage of time instead of sitting like, well, that was cool. Well, there went 4 hours of my life.
Right, exactly. And I think that for people like you and I, it's um we we really enjoy the creative process and thrive on being successful. And so it's not really work for us to, work on podcasts or blog posts or, marketing campaigns just because it's something we really, really enjoy doing.
Right, exactly. I found myself just the other week helping somebody flesh out an idea, and it was like at 1 in the morning just because I was up. I thought, well, why not? I'm up. I have the energy, so let me do it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's how I operate a lot too. I have narcolepsy, so I'm tired anyway, and it's like, well, if I'm going to be tired no matter what, I might as well be doing something productive. So
Yeah.
I'm often up till like 2:30 in the morning, and then back up at like 7:30. Just I I enjoy it, you know. I sleep
Right.
in it on weekends.
I've just trained my body to thrive on about 5 to 5.5 hours of sleep. So
Yeah.
it's some people say, but it's not healthy. Like, sure it is. I just look at every single thing I eat. I don't like to eat junk. I clean my diet out. So if I don't eat, like, like, I don't see something that's prescribed for a diet, but it really gets into, I'll eat certain foods over other ones because some foods, they affect my sleeping pattern where I'm not sleeping as restful. So I don't have them.
Right.
So,
Right. That's it too. I mean, you do what you got to do, and you prioritize the things that you want to have and do in life, and sleep is lower on that list. I mean, I love sleep, don't get me wrong, but it's like I'm going to be tired anyway, so might as well work and have fun.
right, exactly. I mean, it's one of those things that makes the biggest difference in terms of how do you figure out how much time that you have. Like, here's a great example if you look at it. If you sleep in the typical, let's say, prescribed average of 8 hours a night, you're really sleeping about 120 days of the year. So 4 months of it is gone just to sleeping. So, but if you train your body, to instead, let's say, thrive on 5 hours of sleep, which is that's a dramatic difference. You gain essentially 2 months back of
Right,
time.
which is huge.
Right.
Uh, I think I heard that Martha Stewart gets about 5 hours of sleep every night as
Hmm.
well. And I remember, like, back when I was in that low vibe mode 6.5 years ago, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, like, there's no way I could, get by on 5 hours. But if you totally change your mindset, I mean, you can thrive on 5 hours.
Right, exactly. The only times that you will ever see me sleeping like 8+ hours if I totally physically exhausted myself. Like, let's say I ran a 10K race and then I did more and more stuff to the point where I'm barely standing at the end of the day. Well, I'll wake up whenever I get up at that point because my body was pushed beyond that normal threshold by a lot.
You just do what you got to do to have fun and get stuff done.
Right, exactly. That's what you have to do. You have to do what's necessary to get there. So obviously, you have that mindset that's so critical, so important. How is it that when you're working with clients, that you see them being most successful with getting their message out there right now in today's world, where people are bombarded by message and ad one after another over social media?
The biggest thing that I've noticed between somebody who is really, really successful in putting their message out there and somebody who's not is branding. Like, um, if if you're DIYing and you're not, a branding expert, you're definitely not going to make as much as somebody who either hired out the branding or is a branding expert themselves. That makes all the difference. I'd rather purchase, a $10,000 package from a coach whose branding is beautiful compared to, a $2,500 package from somebody who has a really boring, plain website.
Right. Oh, definitely. It makes a huge difference when you represent yourself properly out there.
Right, exactly. And even if, you don't necessarily have the, like let's say you're first starting out, there's so many different ways that you can work on, creating a beautiful branding experience for your clients. And something I'm a huge fan of is like trading services. So for example, like let's say I were just starting out, I could ask a VA or somebody in branding who may just be starting out if they wanted to trade like coaching services for branding services. I mean, working out those types of situations is better than DIYing it and doing a crappy job.
Right. Oh, totally. It makes a big difference based on how you show up. And you have to be resourceful because at the end of the day, it's always about how resourceful you are, not how many resources you have.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And one thing too is networking is huge. Like I can't remember how many times like I've been in a situation or other friends have been in a situation where it was going to cost, a lot of money if we didn't find the proper resource. And because we networked, like we got it done immediately. It's huge.
Right. It's something that people don't necessarily think about it. Your network. Some people look at it as it's just this resource of people that you sell to instead of it's an asset. Where you have people that you can call upon that have specialized knowledge that you can tap into.
Exactly. Like for example, in Kimra Luna's group, I had posted in there about an issue I was having with my website in the middle of a launch, and people were coming to my site. Thousands and thousands of people at a time, and they were getting a 404 error, and I was getting the runaround from my hosting company. I posted an SOS in the group saying, somebody help. And Michael from, I think his site is cutallthishit.com, and he fixed it in like minutes. Mm-hmm. And so I switched everything to him, and, it's significantly more expensive than what I was paying, but you can't beat the service. And that it's very personalized.
Right, exactly. And that's something I think people don't think about is that you can grow your business by being resourceful and providing valuable knowledge to people. Like in your case, when you're asking for help, that here's something that it might have taken you hours or days to sort out, yet somebody with the knowledge fixed it in minutes.
Exactly. And I had been on the phone like all day with the old hosting company, and they kept giving me the runaround, and here I am losing thousands of dollars, and all these visitors are coming to a 404 error, and he was able to fix it in literally minutes.
Right. And you can't put a price tag on that.
Exactly.
Where that's something.
And so I tell everybody I know
right.
about him. He's amazing.
Right, and you think about it of where some people, they're looking at it as, oh, well, I would have charged for that. But if you think about how influential your network is, and when people are having that issue, what's going to be bigger? Let's say someone charging, $100 to fix that one problem, or you telling everybody that ever has an issue with their website, this is the guy you need to talk to.
Exactly. Just in the last week, I think I've sent like 5 people his way. So like it's huge.
Right.
Just because he was helping me out, and I told everybody who needed services about him.
Right. It makes a big difference that way, and that's what some people have not caught on to, when it comes to things. So It makes a big difference when you're looking at stuff.
Right. And I think too, not just having that network of people, but also being a connector as well, seeking opportunities to connect to people, who may help each other or may benefit from their services is huge.
Right. So now let's expand upon being a connector, because it's something that everybody talks about. So many people, they're looking at, well, you need to just build a network so you can have people to sell to. But what is the true impact about being a connector when you're looking at growing a business?
So, for example, let's say that I have a friend who is a lawyer, and she's an excellent lawyer, and I have somebody that needs a lawyer to like work on their contracts or something, and I'm constantly sending people to my lawyer friend saying she's the best of the best, you need to work with her. That lawyer is going to think, oh my gosh, this is like a raving fan here, and so she's going to send business my way anytime she recognizes that somebody has a need that I could fulfill. Like, it's, do it without the expectation of anything in return, but it has always come back to me tenfold.
Exactly. And that's the key to it. It's doing something without the expectation, and just giving from the heart just because you want to help people. That's what makes a difference.
Mm-hmm. I find immense joy in like giving people that, oh my gosh, you've totally saved the day type of thing. And I'm like, well, it's what I do. I enjoy it. It's something I thrive on,
Right, exactly. It makes a big difference. So obviously being a connector, being resourceful, it's extremely important in growing a business. But then what is it that people you see that they're doing should be, or at least they should be doing in the first place, of getting their message out there, especially if they're just getting started, they've invested in the branding, their website. What do you see as being the most effective for someone to start getting traction?
So probably the best thing would be is to be helpful to people. So the way that I found my IT guy, I call him Michael, is, because I did post in the group saying, I'm having this issue, and Michael swooped in and literally saved the day. He was on the spot, like, here, I can fix this for you. It'll take me literally 2 minutes. I won't charge you for it. Let me help you. And so he is probably wildly successful, because I see him anytime somebody has an IT issue in that group, he's right on it, like saying, this is what you need to do. And he's not asking them like for any money. And so people are like, oh my gosh, this guy is so helpful. Like, you need to go to him for everything IT related or branding related, because I think his fiance does that stuff too, branding. And so just being wildly helpful to people in social circles full of people that are like your target customer. And then people will, if you're giving away some of your best stuff for free, imagine if they paid for that, like what kind of value they can get out of your services.
Right. And that's something that people have to grasp onto. It's being willing to give away so much for free, because we live that day and age where information, it's all over the place. So it's more of the information you give out is about positioning you as the expert. And then people want to hire you for the implementation.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Just like I launched a PDF last week, an opt-in about how to host your destination intensives. And I've had several coaches reach out to me saying, oh my gosh, this is for free. Like, you totally should have charged for this. And I said, no way. Like, this is something I love to do, and I love to help people. And I know that once they're going through it, like, I gave them like 90% of the puzzle, and they need to come and hire me for the other 10%. And it'll all come out in the wash in the end, and I know I'll make out. So.
Right, because when you look at that information there, that 90%, because you're going to find some people that they're just that darn smart and creative. Say, oh, okay, well, this makes sense. And the 10%, they can fill in the blanks really fast. But then there's other people that just like, okay, this makes sense. I don't have time to try to figure it out on my own. let me just pull up my card and say, we're going here and let's just get this thing done. Because they don't want to spend
Exactly.
a month figuring it out. They want to go, we can do it in one day? Okay, good. Because time's valuable to them.
That's exactly right. That's why, I'm hiring a photographer, I'm hiring a branding expert, copywriter. Like, I can do all of that.
Right.
But there's other things I'd rather be doing. So I'm going to pay you to do it all for me, or I'm going to pay you to like walk me through, hold my hand step by step. And, you can't really put a price tag on that.
Oh, no,
The
definitely
convenience.
not. Right. Convenience is everything. Because when you look at it as you have a finite amount of time each and every day, and you can decide to be doing all this minutia work to make things work, or you can hire people to do it for you. So you have that freedom of time to spend it with your family, with your
Exactly.
friends, doing the stuff you love versus, oh, I'd love to go and watch you play softball and all these other things, but I must attach myself to my desk for the next 23 hours. So come back tomorrow.
Right. Right. Exactly. Delegation is a way to have less stress and do the things you love.
Right. Exactly. I mean, it makes a huge difference. So, because you transition out of the whole blogging world into the one-day intensive, was that a big switch for you? Because some people out there, they've been doing one thing, and then there's that fear in their mindset of, but everybody knows me for this one thing. How can I make this switch?
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, like at the very beginning, it felt kind of disjointed. And so I kind of had this fear that, oh my gosh, like, I'm just the blogging girl who blogs about lifestyle stuff, like, so pretty much like anything, to somebody who is going to be doing a high dollar, like intensives. And so, but then I had to think back to the fact that, okay, girl, you've got an MBA, you're working on your PhD, you used to be a financial advisor managing billions of dollars. You were the youngest financial advisor to ever work for Edward Jones. Let's see here. You had a 3.91 GPA. You were a state finalist for Miss Iowa USA. Like, this whole list of credentials. And I'm like, why the hell not? Like, if anybody should be charging, it should be me.
Right.
And people are already coming to me asking, like, how can I make money doing what you do? And so when I changed my mindset around the issue, I'm like, it was an easy transition.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It always goes back down that mindset because you've done so many of those things. And you're working on your PhD right now?
Yeah, I'm actually a seminarian, so I attend seminary grad school working on my PhD in theology and apologetics, not because like I necessarily want to do anything with it, just because Dr. Haan sounds really cool to me.
So that's a good thing. Like, the term doctor.
Right, exactly. I'm like, that's just another. It's more of like a bucket list thing than anything.
Right, and there's that part of me that I thought, I should probably do that as I was in the Air Force for 10 years and have the whole GI Bill. That I might as well do that at some point here because it would just be kind of cool to say, oh, look, it's doctor. Like, about what?
Right.
Whatever I wanted it to be. Like, you did a PhD on that? Yep.
Yep. And thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
The only thing that I'm kind of kicking myself over is like getting like seminary school is way, way harder than when I got my MBA.
Really?
Like, oh yeah, it's really, really hard. And I'm still kicking myself wondering if I know I'll get my PhD eventually. It's just, I may take some time off here and next term just to, breathe for a minute.
Right. Well, the thing to think about is that regardless, even if it takes you another 3 or 4 years to do it, the next 3 or 4 years are going to pass by regardless. So
right.
Why not?
Exactly. Yeah. So I think what'll probably happen is I think my next term I have to do like mission work. So that'll be pretty easy, but it's just the having to do like papers on like poetry in the Old Testament. And I was like, oh, poetry in the Old Testament. Like, I like poetry. yeah, not this kind of poetry. It's like they're asking about like all of like the different like technical terms for the poetry and all this stuff, and it's yeah. I'd rather read, all of the dry stuff that I did when I was like working on my bachelor's in corporate finance and my securities licenses and stuff. But
Right. Some things are like, oh, that's
just
easy compared to that.
yeah, for sure. Like I'd rather take statistics than some of my seminary classes, but I'm getting through it.
But, I always love statistics because it's all factual. Like, well, what do you want the numbers to represent? You can change anything and make it out to be what you want it.
Right, exactly. And I was very fortunate that by the time I had to take any of my statistics classes when I was getting my MBA and bachelor's, I had already had my securities license. And with the Series 7, it's pretty much most of it's like statistics. So I already had most of that done.
Yeah.
So
it makes a difference.
yeah.
Like some people, they dread it, but I say out of all the different types of math, me personally, I think it's the easiest, just because you can relate it to things.
I'd rather do statistics than like algebra.
Right.
Like I've got 3 kids and my oldest is in middle school and she's bringing home her Common Core math and I'm like, I don't know, go ask your dad. He'll figure it out. Like I'm the one with the MBA and all of this stuff, but I'm like, that Common Core stuff, I can't get my head around it. So I'm like, no, your dad will help you.
I'm sure you and many millions of Americans are in that same position. What in the world is this? Like, go to the other parent.
Exactly.
But I always look in terms of statistics where it's fun. Like, I remember people I knew in school that the way they got through this, they related everything in statistics to some type of sport, and they did great at it. Whether it was football, baseball, you name it. Like, they would just translate it. They're like, oh, I got it. It's like this, and that. It's like, yeah.
That's
exactly.
hilarious.
But it worked. They figured out a pattern that they could relate to, and then it all made sense. Like, oh, so that's how they came up with that number. And like the big light bulb went off. Like, they got it. So they went from getting C's in class to getting A's because they now understood it.
Right. They just had to change the mind frame as far as like what numbers they were looking at.
Right. And that's the same thing when it comes to business so many times. We have to change how we look at a problem, how we look at a situation. Just like how you've structured your business about these intensives, that it makes it much more powerful when you can focus in on those things instead of trying to do everything to everybody.
Right, exactly. And so when I'm attracting, my tribe, it's not work. Like I don't have to sit there and convince them that, you can't talk about how everything's expensive and you can't talk about all this stuff because I mean, if it's expensive, then it's going to be expensive. Like you just make it work. Like I had a really large expense come up today. I woke up with no furnace and, most people would freak out saying, oh my gosh, like, how am I going to come up with this extra money? Well, for me, it was easy. Like I was very fortunate that, my money mindset is on point and I manifested the exact amount within like hours that I needed to replace it. So
right. And that's
it's
key.
crazy how that works.
Oh yeah. Your beliefs about money make the biggest difference. So what are some of those beliefs about money that you think people should have that unfortunately people don't?
So some of the really big ones for me are that like there's more than enough money to go around. And when you are in a constant state of lack where like you're living paycheck to paycheck, you can never get ahead, having that type of mentality, you're going to be that way the rest of your life. It doesn't matter how much money you end up making. Like you can get a 6-figure job easily, and if you don't have the right mindset, you're never going to have enough.
Right.
And so working on that mindset is huge. Like there's more than enough money to go around. There's more than enough clients for you, me, and every other coach that wants to coach. Like you're going to attract your people and they will pay whatever amount you want. at whatever frequency you want.
Right, exactly. When people ask me, like, well, how can I go and do this? Like, it seems like there's so many people doing the same thing. I just simply tell them, there's over 7 billion people on the planet. You only need a small fraction of a percentage to have an incredible income. Are you still worried about there's a few other people doing what you're doing?
Right, exactly. It's like there's more than enough. I mean, how many people are on Facebook? Like,
Right.
holy smokes, you know? And there's more than enough for you, me, and everybody else who wants a piece of that pie.
Right, exactly. That there's a finite amount every single person is going to influence. You look at seminars out there. Like just last month, I was at the seminar out in California watching Tony Robbins, and there was about just over 10,000 people there. But there's a finite that could fit into the arena, so there was a limit there.
Right. Right.
And even you would think that, well, someone like that, everybody has to know who he is. You'd be amazed of how many times I could be sitting in Starbucks and say, oh yeah, I was at this, and the reaction is, who's that? So
isn't that crazy?
Oh yeah.
Like how you, like, once you immerse yourself in this type of world of like coaching and like high vibe people,
Mm-hmm.
then like they all come out of the woodwork and you're like, oh yeah, I know all these people. But then you think back to when your eyes weren't open to all of that. It's like
Right.
You had no idea the whole world that was open to you.
Right, exactly. So that lesson I figured out from that one moment was, it doesn't matter how big of a person they become in the world. No pun intended, since he's pretty darn tall. But it doesn't matter that there's still going to be people out there who will not have heard your message. So that means there's plenty of room out there for everybody to grow. If you have one of the biggest people in the industry in terms of changing people's lives has not impacted everybody out there, then there's tons of room for everybody else.
That's exactly right.
It's just all how you look at it. That's what it comes down to.
More than enough for everybody to make whatever amount of money they want to make. They just need to have the right mindset and work towards those goals.
Right, exactly. So now, pulling it back towards your intensives, how did you settle upon this as your particular niche, your brand to market towards, versus people putting out regular courses where you want to just get it all on in one shot?
So something that my mentor taught me is that unless you're making a certain dollar amount every single month doing one-on-one work, you don't really want to jump into the group coaching world of things. And I think that was kind of something that I did in my MLM. Was most of my work was group coaching. And so I kind of reversed things, and now I can focus on one person at a time and really drive it home for them and get, an amazing testimonial out of them for the work I've done. And then, the rest will come. Like, I'll be able to then up level my services. So once I'm doing one-on-ones for a while, then I'll do the group coaching, and then I can do like mastermind groups that are like high level group coaching. It's just kind of a progression
of
things.
Definitely. And it's a great way to do it. And it just shows you that there's more than one way to achieve a goal, where there's some people, they're going to start off with group coaching, and others, like yourself, you're starting off at the high end. So
right.
There's not that one size fits all. Like, it's not like buying a Snuggie. Here you go. It's one size and that's it.
Right. Right. Exactly.
So you have to do what's going to work. So now, how can people learn more about the one-day intensives that you offer?
Okay, so they can go to my site, which is idyllicpursuit.com. Otherwise, they can always email Kathy at idyllicpursuit.com, and either me or my assistant will get in touch with them.
Okay. That's a great way to do it. It's in terms of reaching out, and is the information on your website about the one-day intensives?
Yeah, so there's a work with me tab at the top. And so when they go there, it'll literally spell out exactly what is offered in the intensive FAQs in there. It'll list the price as well. And then if you're ready to go, you can just purchase that right there. Otherwise, if you still have more questions, there's a contact me tab at the top where you can email your questions in. And then I believe on my About Me side, there's a place to set up a phone call with me as well.
Oh, excellent.
To see if that would be the right fit. Yeah. So, I don't work with just anybody. You have to have the right type of vibe for me to want to work with you. So if you're unsure that that's the type of vibe that you have, definitely set up a 30-minute phone call with me.
Okay. And that's important to make sure that you have the right vibe, because so many times people end up enrolling in a course or program and it's not the right fit, and it's this awkward relationship the entire time instead of there being a synergy from the beginning.
Right, because I don't want to be miserable trying to coach you, and likewise, like, you want to make sure that everything vibes, and if I'm having to pull teeth to get you here, like, I don't want that. Like, I'd rather, run with a couple people than have to drag 100,
Right, exactly. It makes all the difference in the world. And earlier you had mentioned that there is a PDF that really talked about how people could do a one-day intensive. Where can people find that at?
Okay, so if you check out my Facebook page, I just launched the PDF. So there's an opt-in there, and then I'll be adding that to my site here actually tonight. So if you want to do it as soon as this goes live, you're good to find it right on my site.
Oh, excellent. And I'm sure people are going to appreciate that. That's for sure. So out of everything we discussed, what's that one thing that people should be doing to get started, to start creating their lifestyle the way that they want, so they can generate the income they truly are able to earn?
Okay, so I think it all goes back to the mindset. Constantly immerse yourself in personal development. So some of the ones I suggest are The Science of Getting Rich and Think and Grow Rich. Those are my top 2 books that I love. Another one that's really good is The Dark Side of the Light Keepers. And that really was transformational for me, knowing that, like, even the light workers that we see now who are wildly successful, they all, have a dark side as well. And it's not necessarily bad things. And so that really helped work through some of past trauma. And one other takeaway that I have is making sure that you're surrounding yourself with the right type of people, because they can either lift you up or they can drag you down. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather, be with the high vibe people.
Right. And that makes all the difference in the world, because there's nothing worse than you're in the room with the wrong type of people. You're like, ugh. You just kind of feel drained and icky afterwards.
Gossipy and just like sucking the life out of you. And yeah, I totally get that.
Right. It makes all the difference in the world. Well, Kathy, I want to thank you so much for coming on to the Big Movement podcast today and sharing your passion and your wisdom about mindset, about branding, and just about putting yourself out there and doing things to embrace your gifts and your talents to create the future that you deserve.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks for listening to the Big Movement Podcast today. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Now that you've surely been inspired to take your entrepreneurial career and business to the next level, you can stop by the website and get more. And if you're ready to boost your business brand, be sure to grab your free report, 7 Easy Steps to Build Your Brand Today.